We are seeing a monster crash in silver. We are seeing a monster crash in gold as well. We're seeing a huge crash in the SP 500. Everything is falling, including crypto as well. So in today's video, we're going to break it all down. Why this has happened. Is it an overreaction? And importantly, what is the most important thing for this to actually reverse? So always remember, even though there's a lot of panic obviously out there in the market, remember, when people are fearful, that can be a good time to be researching and staying calm. And when people are greedy, that's typically, a time to watch out for profit taking and things like that. And that's what Warren Buffett has said. So in today's video, let's get into, just get straight into the market, because obviously it's looking super rough. And you can see right here, there was a huge wipe off. Basically everything went down. There was nothing really that went up on Friday, which was yesterday. Today is Saturday. And you can see right here, if we have a look at silver, a huge manipulative sell-off. And I really don't think this is going to be your silver holders who have, silver coins and silver bullion. You guys know this is all paper, right? This is all a big paper sell-off, potentially manipulation. Gold is also in that realm as well. So gold, there was a bit of a sell-off on gold down to 4,300. Silver hitting $67, which we haven't seen in quite a while. So if we actually zoom out right here, last time we saw that was, March 2026. And maybe that was the time when the whole Iran war kicked off. And we'll talk about that later in the video. But basically, no safe spaces, everything kind of getting smashed, including the SP 500, which went down about 2.8%. Look at that. That is a monstrous decline for the day. That is huge. So yes, the S&P 500 almost acting like crypto market right here with this massive, massive red candle. So from 7,570 down to about 7,350. So a couple of 100-point drop on the S&P 500, which is pretty crazy, but it's still relatively pretty high. Now, why did this happen? And what can happen to gold, silver, copper, the S&P 500? We'll talk about it. So a lot of this actually had to do with this jobs report that came out. So it started with the jobs report in the morning on Friday. The US economy added 172,000 jobs in May. Wall Street expected 88,000. That is almost double. On any normal day, strong jobs is good news, but inflation is already at 3.8% and oil sitting at $90. A labor market this strong tells the Fed it cannot cut interest rates and may actually need to raise them. So the chances of an interest rate hike went up to 57%. And that's just going to cause a massive sell-off on the stock market, because the market's now anticipating that money is going to become more expensive. AI sold off quite a lot, and AI's been racing to the moon. And always remember, what goes up sometimes can come down hard. And not only that, you saw a huge sell-off in Asia. So the Samsung fell 6%. You had the South Korean stock market going down 5.5% in a single session. And then also, to throw into the mix of things as well, we're going to have this SpaceX IPO go live. So 1.75 trillion valuation. And also Anthropic went next, is about to go as well. So these companies are going to be 4 to 5 trillion. And this is all coming at the perfect storm time of the Iran conflict that we'll talk about as well, because this is not even remotely resolved. So this is about as stale as it's getting. And we'll talk about that later in the video. And just everything is kind of piling up. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And the stock market and all the financial markets, this could be the first crack in the dam. But remember, I don't want to be too gloomy on this channel. Remember, it's a long-term journey as well. And things like money printing. Have a look at the money printer, 39.2 trillion, climbing. This thing's going to 40 trillion. It's probably going to go to 45 trillion. It's probably going to go to 50 trillion. One day, you're probably going to see 100 trillion national debt. So remember the principles that underlie metals, underlie, useful assets like, copper as well. They're still going to be needed, right? There's going to be a lot of need in the future, but at the moment, obviously, a huge amount of sickness is coming into the financial markets right now. Now, the other thing that people should have on the radar is the stockpiles of oil are starting to go down quite a lot, because the Strait of Hormuz is not really open very much. It's suppressed. There are still some ships going through, But again, this is a conflict that it's like got a ticking time bomb attached to it. So the longer this goes on, and we've seen how just bad the negotiations have been, they haven't really got very far. And to top it off, in the last 24 hours, we've seen missiles go towards Kuwait, drones go towards Kuwait. We're seeing the US shoot down multiple Iranian drones flying towards the Strait of Hormuz. And the war is getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. It's really very, very much at an edge of where it might just potentially explode again. And again, I cannot even stress how bad that is going to be for the US economy, for the global economy. And because we do know at the same time, the Iranians, the way they've been acting, the way they've been speaking to us during this conflict, especially over on X, is they have just had a very hard line in the sand. So, they've got their demands. They say this is what they want, and they're not really going to be budging, it doesn't look like. So they're basically turtling in. They've been preparing for this for how many years? Was it 45, 50 years? And they're used to the sanctions. They're used to this. And, they're going down the pathway of they just want to tough it out. And it's not going too well for Trump and the US in freeing up this Strait of Hormuz. So I think the Strait of Hormuz cold is coming onto the economy currently. That's kind of what it feels like at the moment. And also, Peter Schiff says right here, I think we already have the answer. Not only are all risk assets tanking today, but most of the value names we own have solid gains. It's just that metals and miners are caught up in the sell-off. I expect those losses to be recovered quickly. So he's talking about the precious metals right there. And yes, crypto has also crashed. So crypto has been one of the first casualties, or one of the biggest casualties actually, of this Strait of Hormuz incident. And also the underlying, I would say, lack of health in the economy. So on face value, we are seeing, look, yes, S&P 500 is very high. But when you talk to your average person out there, how much do they trust the government? How much do they believe in the government? How much is inflation really? So remember, like the Fed is always cooking these numbers around. They're going to say, look, inflation's like 4.6%. It's not 4.6%. Not when your beef and, the things that you need are going up like 30, 40, 50%, 100%. You guys know when you go to the grocery store, it's going to be a lot higher than these cooked up numbers coming out of the Federal Reserve and the government, right? So I feel underneath all this, it's looking pretty. It's looking pretty sick underneath it. But having said that, even though metals are down, you guys can see right here, silver $67, gold 4,300, and what is copper sitting at $6.30. Long term, there's going to be requirements for this. So yes, there is a huge risk sell-off currently in the market, and you can actually see with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's really struggled in the last couple of days. Here, $59,000 for Bitcoin today, which is really, really, this is like the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, for crypto, which is, and you guys know. And then another fact I want to tell you guys, because you guys know we're also experts at cryptocurrency. We've had a lot of experience in cryptocurrency. No one knows the crypto market like we do. And remember, in the crypto market, there was a lot of IPOs or ICOs running for the last 18, 24 months. And a lot of them were failing. And I'm not saying, look, Starlink's going to fail, or SpaceX, or these types of IPOs are failing, but it can also be a pretty interesting signal when they're trying to get those valuations to the public, to the retail investors to buy in, especially if they don't end up holding up that long. So that's where you have to kind of drill into the numbers, look at the PE ratios, look at the value, look at, just the fundamentals of these things before you really jump into it right here. So Bitcoin trading at $59,000. Bitcoin's primary value driver is psychology, right? So don't get fooled. It is portable. It is good to send it around, but primarily, the main difference between, say, Bitcoin and, say, metals is metals you will need in like a real industrial economy in the future. Bitcoin, on the other hand, it's more of a group psychology play, right? So it's people believing in it. And that does give it value in itself. So remember, and I'm not just picking on, crypto today, because I'm a fan of crypto. It also applies to anything in life as well. So, women, diamonds, even branding, right? So people think wearing like a Ralph Polo shirt is going to give you like some extra type of magical value. In my opinion, it doesn't, but there's a market that does believe in brands and things like that. So always remember there's intangible value behind some of these things. They're a little bit tricky. They are psychological to understand, but we can talk about it more in future videos. But Bitcoin's sitting about $60,000, looking very rough at the moment. And that's off the back end of, Michael Saylor has had to sell his Bitcoin. So if you know the Bitcoin market well, this guy right here, he has been diamond handsing Bitcoin for a long period of time. He's almost like the most influential person in crypto who's always saying, buy more Bitcoin, invest all your money into Bitcoin. And the thing that's happened is he's had to sell Bitcoin to fund his company and pay for the dividends and things like that. And that's absolutely completely rattled the market. And you've seen ETF outflows and people just dumping the Bitcoin. There's also an AI threat to Bitcoin as well, which could potentially happen one day, but we'll see how that happens as well, because there was actually, this crypto got exploited by Claude AI. So if you guys don't know this one, Zcash, Claude AI basically found a bug in it, like an infinite mint bug. And this is the risk of AI as well. So there's plenty of risk out there. And remember also with metals, what's the risk if you own silver? What's the risk if you own copper? Especially if you own it physically, the real risk is just if you get robbed, right? So if you don't tell too many people about, you holding a big bag of copper or silver or gold or whatever it is, especially if it's the physical stuff, be smart about it. And that's your main risk. Whereas in crypto, the AI can come for you, the software can come for you, which is obviously a bit more worrisome right there. And so I do think, to bring it back to where we started this video with the question, what's going to reverse this? So obviously this is going to be a huge weekend for Trump. One thing we know about Trump is we know Trump hates red charts. He hates the stock market going down. He hates, the financial markets going down. He's always talking about the numbers, the Dow Jones and all that. So obviously it's been like a nightmare Friday for Trump. He came out with this tweet. He did say, with the great jobs report like just announced, stocks should go up, not down. That's the way it was for 200 years. Growth does not mean inflation. How else can a country attain greatness? ? So Trump is going to have to pull out all of his magical tricks on Monday and Tuesday to pump this stock market up. So he's going to have to come up with some magic. Otherwise, things could get rougher and rougher and rougher. And but again, think about the long terms right here. So even though, look, the markets are down, remember, money printing going to go up, and there's lots of other risk on things to have on the radar. And this thing needs to get resolved because, again, every day that ticks on with this conflict, it's unfortunately the whole world is hostage to this thing as well. Doesn't matter where you live, some way you're going to be impacted on this, unless you can fully almost go off the grid with your own self-food, self-powered stations, all that important stuff. You can do that. You're doing pretty good. But I'd say most people are kind of caught up with this Iran conflict indirectly. And guys, that is your major urgent Saturday update. If you guys enjoyed it, like the video, guys, have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next video.